Coming up next is Avner Ronen, the CEO of Boxee, who is going to speak to The TV is Dead. Long live the television. Avner, great to see you.
So thanks for the opportunity to speak with you guys. It's not my usual audience, and I'm not gonna pitch Boxee. How many people here have heard about Boxee, by the way? Good. So I don't need to pitch it. So I'm gonna talk more about the industry and what we see and what we think is broken today and why we're excited about tomorrow. What we see today, honestly, I really think it's getting to the point of embarrassing. You know, I see many people in the audience have their iPads open. We're using Windows 7 or Mac OS, and we're using iPhone OS and Android, and all of those different devices have those beautiful user experiences. And then when we turn our biggest screen and we invested in a $2,000 HD plasma LCD, whatever, and that's what we get, that's kind of insulting, actually. And we think that needs to change, and that's going to change. And it's going to be driven by us as consumers demanding it, and I think it's going to be driven by technology companies that already have products that are making very different experiences relevant for consumers. TV is getting better. So it's not that the industry is not innovating. It's just that it's really innovating only on the smaller screens. So that shows us that they can do great stuff. I don't know how many of you here played with ABC on the iPad, but it's brilliant. I painfully went through most of the V series on this device, and the experience of getting to the content was great. The show itself was a bit painful. But there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do the same type of really engaging, eye-pleasing experiences on the TV. So obviously they have people that can innovate and can design those things since they're doing it for the other screens. So the question is why they're not doing it for those bigger screens. And the answer is fear. And there's lots of fear of seeing that graph happening around video. You know, it's a $120 billion industry between cable subscriptions and advertising combined together. And nobody wants to live through that type of graph of what happened to music, or having jokes told about them like the New York Times about their print business. And I really think that looking at those two examples for the video industry and seeing on one hand the music industry that has ignored digital and paid a dear price, or the print industry that embraced digital and paid a dear price. It's kind of them if you do and them if you don't, so I better don't. And I think it's the wrong attitude. I think video is different than both print and from music. People are willing to pay for video content. There's many people that are using Netflix today, pay $9 a month, and use it exclusively online. Rarely they replace discs. And you have over 1 million people paying for Major League Baseball and NHL and NBA and many other services, and iTunes, obviously. So people are willing to pay. The main issue is that there's not really a lot of content out there that is available for consumers. And video has the benefit of having exclusive content, unlike news. General news, you can read in many different places. If you're a big fan of Lost, there's only one place that you can get it. So they have the advantage of having exclusive content, and they have the willingness of the users to pay. And I don't think that the consumption of video is going to change in the way the music consumption have changed. That it was so quick and easy to get pirated content. And then people today, they value music more based on access than on single tracks. So they'll pay for a Spotify subscription, but they're not necessarily going to buy an album. I don't think that's going to happen with video. I think people are still going to pay for movies, they're still going to pay for TV shows, and there's probably lots of new business models that can come together if they endorse it. So, looking at the positive sides, if you look at all those devices that now we can consume video on, and you look at the behavior, how many people here have iPad? Yeah. I got my iPad, and on my iPhone, I didn't spend as much money, but iPad is sucking up my money very easily. I don't know why, actually, from a psychology standpoint, why that happens. It's interesting. But I think when it comes to video and when it comes to your bigger screen, today you're paying one-time subscription for video, and then in some cases you buy one VOD title a month. That's not a very exciting type of consumption. I think they can get to a place where users are interacting with their TV screens and around video content in the same way they interact with apps today, and pay for those apps and pay for instant gratification and pay for great user experiences. And I think that's going to increase the pie, because if you have more users spending more time on more devices, watching more content, you can't be but optimistic about your future rather than fearful. And one thing I think that's going to change is the way the content itself is being produced. A lot of the discussion today in the industry is very defensive around the existing model. That's how a TV show is made, and that's how it's syndicated, and that's how the windowing is working, and so on. But it all takes into assumption that the way content is made and distributed today is also the way it's going to be in the future. And I think that that's a mistake, because the internet is this new medium that's going to also have an impact on the way people are actually making the content. So the reason today that the TV show has 12 or 24 episodes and lasts for 22 or 48 minutes, and the way an episode is written, assuming that it's aired once a week, and you need to build the kind of tension for the next week so people will tune in and so on, all those assumptions should be rethought. And I think we're very close to the point that between the people that sit in LA and people that sit in Silicon Valley and people that sit in New York, those people are going to come together and take advantage of all those technologies to create very different types of content and engagement. So the notion of a TV show and the way it's packaged into a channel and the way that channel is bundled with other channels and then sold to cable company, and that's how the business is working, I think all those assumptions are going to prove irrelevant in a few years' time. And I would bet that 5 years from now, when we look at what's the biggest franchise in TV today, or in video today, it won't be a TV show like CSI. It will be a show that takes advantage of the fact that people are on multiple screens, and that people will pay not necessarily just for the video, but they'll pay for being part of the experience. You look at the show, in the unscripted world, it's much easier to imagine that. You look at a show like American Idol, and the type of user excitement that exists around it, and the way people are interacting with it. And today, the only outlet they have really is voting. But if you can get people that are so emotionally invested in a show to feel a bigger part of it, they'll also be willing to pay for it. And the other good news, I think, is when it comes to that the previous slide probably had to do with paying for content. When it comes to advertising, DVR, forget about the internet being a threat for the industry. DVR is this huge threat for the industry. No matter what some reports are saying about the number of people that are sitting with their DVR and not fast-forwarding through ads, I've yet to have met such a person, by the way. So I don't know where the researchers are finding those people. But you'll speak with the CEO of TiVo, and will tell you that that's why people or it's a big portion of how people use TiVo is to fast-forward through ads. So, and that's a very dangerous one for the advertising business, obviously. And what's great about the internet from that perspective, maybe not so great for the users, but great for the industry, is that when people are consuming content on demand and it's streaming, there's no notion of fast forwarding. Yeah, you can still go to the bathroom and you can still go and put something in the oven, but the ads are going to play. You're not going to fast forward through them. And I think that's something that users are willing to accept for the convenience of being able to access everything whenever they want. Even DVR, which is beginning of time shifting, it's not an efficient way for people to time shift their consumption. The most efficient way is that if you heard about, there was this great piece yesterday in Johnson Stewart, or somebody told you about a new show, the most natural thing is to go to an interface that allows you to search for it, find it, and start consuming it. And DVR does not enable you to do that. You have to think in advance that you're interested in the show and then set it up to record it. And that doesn't make sense. So I think users, for that convenience, will be willing to pay with their time by watching ads. And getting back to the new business models, this is something that is a huge obstacle for the industry. If today you'll speak with the media companies, they'll tell you that the reason there's only 10% of cable content online and only about 50% of broadcast content online is because the business model online does not support it. And also it competes with an existing great business model on cable. So I think that's going to change. I think the model that's going to break it is users' willingness to pay a subscription fee, in many cases much higher than what networks get today from retrans fees or from cable licensing fees for an entire channel. I think users will be willing to pay for one show. And I think that's around the corner, and I think it's going to be something that combines great content with some game mechanics that would create the type of user involvement that people will be willing to value and pay for. Another commentary is regarding TV everywhere that is getting a lot of attention in the industry. Is not really everywhere today, but let's say it will be. There's one bug with that concept, and that bug is that you have to be a cable subscriber to enjoy TV everywhere. So if you want to watch something online and you want to watch it only online, only on your iPad and on your laptop, and you're willing to pay for it, you still have to buy a cable subscription in that world. And that doesn't make sense. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to pay for a content subscription to Amazon or to Apple or to Netflix or to anybody else. And that way, that's the way you get your content. And once you paid for the content once, then you can watch it everywhere, which I think that concept makes perfect sense. So we like TV everywhere as a concept. We just don't like the fact that it's an exclusive model for the cable industry today. It should be expanded to wherever people are willing to pay for content. And out of all these changes that are going to happen, and the fact that the TV screen is going to be connected to the internet, and you'll be able to access, not hundreds of channels, but an infinite amount of content sources, discovery becomes key. The EPG, the guide, as we know it, that metrics of irrelevant information of when a show is on and on which channel, that nobody cares about those two bits of information. That's going to go away. So something needs to replace it, because people still need to open up their screen, whether it's a big screen or a small screen, and get access to content. And it should be about what currently is trending, what people are watching. It should be about the subscriptions that the user maintained. It should be about search. It should be about what your friends are watching. It should be some magic that takes into account what you've watched before and suggests stuff to you. So discovery is going to be a place where there's going to be a lot of innovation, not just about the user experience, but overall just the psychology of how people are going to discover entertainment. And last point, that's another big one for the industry. There's all this discussion about cord cutting. And every now and then there's a research that says how many people have cut the cord or how many people are planning to cut the cord, and then the cable industry says it's not the case and they're not worried, and it goes back and forth. But I think the real elephant in the room is cord never getters. Is those people that today are in colleges or in high schools, and they watch Netflix and they watch Hulu and they buy from iTunes and they watch YouTube obviously and they search, and that's for them the entertainment experience. As they move out of college and into their first apartment, they're probably going to get broadband internet, but it's not clear that they're going to get a cable subscription. They're still going to be willing to pay for content, so the industry needs to be there for them. But I think that's the major thing that's going to happen over the next few years. It's what happened in the 90s with mobile phones and wireline phones. It wasn't much about people cutting the cord of their wireline phone at home as much as all those young people coming out of college and not seeing the need to get the wireline phone. So we think the same is going to happen with video. Because we have so many screens, because we're used to better experiences, because our consumption behavior has changed thanks to iTunes and Napster and whatever it is, I think we'll see a whole generation that for them, consumption of video is not going to be about cable. They'll still have a big screen in their living room. They'll still want to get their content. They'll be willing to pay for it. So the industry needs to be there for them and make it happen. And I guess that's it.
Thank you, Avner.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.